Welcome everyone to the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pickering, and that's right, Lo-Fi as in low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. Here we're going to talk about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? We'll be covering 5 headlines from across the globe and then choose one to go into a more detailed analysis. News fresh off the press. All stories today coming from the Associated Press. Sorry, BBC, CNN, MSNBC, and all you others out there. We'll get back to you as soon as you get back to us. Our first weekend recap. North Korea says U.S. clearly doesn't want nuclear talks. This comes after another testing of short-range missiles by the country over the weekend. U.S. Secretary of State urges the international community to keep up the pressure on North Korea in an effort to bring them back to the table to talk. The implications. These two sides see things very differently. North Korea sees themselves as taking defensive measures against an ever-encroaching West, while the West views North Korea's move as provocative and aggressive. Which side is right? Write in and let me know. Next up, Venezuela's only telecom satellite is lost in space. The satellite was used to bring internet services to rural areas not connected via cable. The government, already in financial recession, must now find alternative ways to bring service back to areas that were already far removed from metropolitan news and communication. The implications. Space. It's big. Don't get lost in space. You'd likely never be found. Our following story. Guinea voters back change that could extend president's rule. Last week we brought you the story of this controversial election taking place. The head of the Electoral Commission of the country said the referendum passed with 92% of the voters voting yes, and voter turnout at 61%. The country's opposition, the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, boycotted the election and said at least 10 protesters were killed, while the government puts this number at about 4. The implications. The president would be term limited out of office this December, but says these terms won't count since his new terms would be 6 years instead of 5. The 82-year-old president could theoretically stay in power another 12 years, until the beautiful age of 94. Sub-implications. President Putin of Russia, it seems you've been outdone by neo-authoritarianism. Sub-implications. Why can't we have cool names for political parties like the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution? And now for our headline in the Spotlight segment. U.S.-led forces pull out of third Iraqi base this month. This was the same base that was attacked in December by the Iranian government or Iranian-backed groups. At the moment, these troops are being sent to other bases in Iraq. However, it appears as though the U.S. military may be completely pulling out of the country. The background and implications of this story. The U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003 after 9/11. At the time, reasons for invading were many. Government connections to terrorism, government possession of weapons of mass destruction, the need to spread democracy to the region. 17 years later, Iraq is not a democracy, but rather firmly an authoritarian regime. These latest events imply we may actually see the U.S. completely leaving the country after being there for most of the 21st century. Will the U.S. leave? Should they stay or should they go? Write in and let me know your thoughts. And a last piece of news from the oddities section. Boat does donut after hitting wave, throws man overboard. Firstly, the driver was rescued and is safe and sound. Secondly, it's unclear if the wave caused the boat to do donuts, or if the driver was playing Fast and the Furious in the Potomac River style. The implications. Are we really this bored, people? Someone send this guy a link to Lofi Poli Sci. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. Let me say thank you so much for listening. Stay safe. Donuts are made in donut shops, not on rivers. Wash those hands, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Lo-Fi Poli Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.